It is Tuesday. It's the 17th of June. I'm Monita Rajpal. This is CNN News Center, live from Hong Kong. Our top stories today. The Iraqi government is claiming gains against ISIS militants as the United States mulls over how to move forward with helping Iraq. Iraqi state TV said Monday that its Air Force destroyed a convoy of 15 vehicles carrying ISIS fighters traveling from Mosul to Beijing. Well, while the Iraqi government is claiming gains, ISIS militants are hitting back with new images showing cold-blooded executions. They are so chilling that the UN's human rights chief said the killings, quote, almost certainly amount to war crimes. Ara Damon has more details for us, but we do warn you, her report does include material that you may find disturbing.
Two of the captives have Iraqi border guard patches on their sleeves. Iraq. The bearded man.
ISIS is fighting to establish an Islamic state stretching across the region, and it's using sectarian lines to divide Iraq. Remember, there are more than 20 million Shia Muslims living in Iraq, and that's about 2/3 of the population. Take a look at this map. Shiites, shown here in blue, live mainly in the southern part of the country. Sunnis populate the west, and Kurds live mainly in the north. But central and southwest Iraq is a mix of Shia and Sunni Muslims. The blue and orange shaded areas. There's also a mix of Sunnis and Kurds to the north, shown here in yellow and orange. Well, let's get more on this divide and how it was formed. Let's cross over to CNN's Atika Shubra. She joins us now from London. Atika, these sectarian divides, they've been there for generations in Iraq. Some have said that they were clamped down during Saddam Hussein's reign, but then it all spilled out like a Pandora's box after he was brought down. So this isn't new, but the fact of the matter is that this escalation, where is this coming from?
Well, it's not new at all. I mean, this is a conflict that goes back centuries. Literally, the Sunni-Shia divide isn't just in Iraq. It's really across the Middle East, and it goes back to really a dispute over who should lead after the Prophet Muhammad's death. Now, in that time, empires rose and fell, but in the modern Middle East, as we know it, these nations were basically carved out by Western powers after World War I. And because of this accelerated rate of diplomacy, the UK seems to say it is time to have an embassy there. We need to get these talks going for many reasons, but most of all because of this ongoing surge by ISIS in Iraq.
Right. Atika, thank you so much for that. Atika Schubert there live for us from London. And as we're talking about this this kind of diplomacy and these negotiations or possible talks even between the U.S. And Iran, the UK and Iran, let's get a little bit more information about what is at stake here. World Affairs reporter Elise Labott has more on this potential partnership.
With Islamist forces advancing on Baghdad, will President Obama team up with Iran?
You are watching CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. Devastation across parts of the U.S. state of Nebraska after a series of tornadoes. You are watching CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. I'm Monita Rajpal. The Somali-based terror group Al-Shabaab has claimed a new attack in Kenya, which killed at least 8 people. It happened in Poromoko near the town of Ekatoni. That's the same area where Al-Shabaab says it killed at least 48 other people on Sunday. Well, some of the other stories we're following for you here at CNN News Center. More than 100,000 Cambodian migrant workers are fleeing Thailand. Most of them are undocumented. They say they are fearful of a crackdown by the Thai military. Thailand denies the rumors, calling them unsubstantiated. General Motors is recalling another 3.4 million cars worldwide. It involves Chevrolets, Cadillacs, and Buicks built in 2000 through to this year. Some have faulty ignition switches that can flip out of the run position, turning off the steering and brakes. GM has now recalled 20 million cars since the start of this year. Prominent Chinese-Australian artist Guo Jian is back in Sydney. He received a warm homecoming after being detained in China for more than 2 weeks over comments he made about the 25th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square crackdown. They were published in the Financial Times, and Guo was detained 2 days later. He also participated in the 1989 protests. The trial for those involved in South Korea's Sewol ferry disaster resumes today. The ferry's captain and 14 crew members members arrived in court earlier on Tuesday. A defense lawyer for the first mate says the crew abandoned ship, believing the Coast Guard could save the rest of the passengers. In Egypt, 3 Al Jazeera journalists who have been held in a Cairo jail since December will soon find out their fate. A judge says he will announce a verdict in the trial next Monday. They are accused of spreading false news, harming Egypt's national security, and belonging to the outlawed Muslim Brotherhood. They deny the charges. Multiple tornadoes ripped through the U.S. state of Nebraska on Monday, killing at least 2 people.
It's ripping up a whole town.
The full scale of the damage is not yet known. Well, let's get more on that. Pedram Javahari is at the World Weather Center with that. Pedram?
Yeah, you know, Monita, it's not a storm you see every single day, of course, when you're talking about those dual vortex tornadoes in place. And historically speaking, those are some of the strongest. At least better news for our friends over much of Europe, Monita.
All right, Pedram, thank you very much. You're watching CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. Coming up, all the World Cup highlights from Brazil. The U.S. has a jubilant win over Ghana. You're watching CNN News Center live from Hong Kong. Most teams have played their opening matches at Brazil's World Cup, but a few countries are gearing up to make their debut. Belgium plays Algeria in Group H. Belgium has some of the best young players in history. Thousands of Americans packed into parks in cities around the country to watch that goal, which was just 30 seconds into the match. Football's popularity, or soccer as they know it there, has been steadily growing in the U.S. CNN's Ted Rollins met with some of the fans. You've been watching CNN News Center. I'm Monita Rajpal at CNN Hong Kong. Thank you for joining us. I'll update you the news headlines in just a few minutes.